I'm not. I'm so happy that the kids were out there because Mike and I had a 16-foot open whaler. We had no place to put any victims. We were a two-man team. We simply asked them to back off. There was some unnecessary conversation that happened. Mike eventually asked if we could tie off to the back of their boat. Mm-hmm. They let us. They said, what did the young fellow say? Go ahead, or thanks.
Yeah, have at it.
Have at it. And I'm pretty sure that young fella, his name is Mike Rosselet, I think. And I think he also was mentioned in a book not too long ago. And so that's kind of like where I got his name and stuff. But the kids were fantastic.
So what specifically were the kids doing?
The kids, when we first got there, they were kind of scattered at the surface.
Were they in the water?
Yeah, they had no, the Skyway isn't a place to go to learn how to dive or to be
right.
for your first couple of dives. I don't think they were prepared for the current and the velocity, let alone the commotion in the water and the stuff going, the other activities, the boats and the people buzzing around. Several of them were bobbing at the surface, drifting away from the boat. I could tell that they were not going to be around. Apparently, a couple of the kids did enter the water and go around the bus, I'm sorry. And I was kind of disturbed. I believe I read in the Times or the Evening Independent that one of the divers indicated that he went around to the back of the bus. Now, remember, as far as I'm concerned, when we first got there, this is an accident investigation scene. Okay? State representatives, we identified ourselves. They knew who we were. That's what we were doing, investigating an accident. Mm-hmm. I had read in the paper that one of those divers from the Eckerd Rescue Team went to the back of that bus and opened up the door and saw a mass of bodies and left them there. Or couldn't get them out. That's okay. That's tough. But didn't make an attempt to close the door. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. I mean, we appreciate the help and stuff, but they actually were disturbing the scene. I didn't think that needed to be done, and I wish that somebody would have told us back then that had occurred. I'd have gone back down and closed that door.
Do you think maybe they originally thought maybe they just had good intentions, like you said?
Absolutely,
and
I'm
they
sure
thought there could have been some potential survivors.
Absolutely, I'm sure they did, and that's why I say I'm not mad at the kids. I just wish if we could have communicated and somebody would have said, "I left the door open," maybe that I'd have jumped back in and closed it.
Was there any possibility of any survivors when you got there? When you guys got there, what was the feeling? Did you think there could be some survivors, or do you think that it was just?
That was a tough call. At that specific time, we really didn't know. What we did notice was that the back of the bus was still relatively afloat. It was held up mostly by the dual wheels in the back. Early pictures of that will show that the bus was at a pretty good angle with the back wheels up. So there must have been some air in there. To the best of my knowledge, and I haven't found anybody tell me anything different, I was the first and the only person to go in that bus. I had hoped, beyond all hope, that I would. Unfortunately, I was not able to find anybody that was alive or even looked like they had been. I believe the coroner's report on the 35 victims were 28 individuals perished from severe trauma impact, and that 7 people had drowned, which would have meant that they survived the crash, but drowned. That was the Hillsborough County coroner's report, I believe. That was the final count. So it was possible. Unfortunately, for us, it didn't work out that way.
So the back of the bus was kind of near the surface, and then when you guys got there, you decided that you needed to get in the water and
Absolutely.
get inside the bus and try to. What was your plan?
After we tied off, after we asked them to please just get back in the boat and help us recover the victims, receive the victims, and take care of them. Because, like I say, we had 16-foot Boston whaler. There was no way we could do that. We suited up. We rolled over. We were in the water for less than 10, 15 minutes. When we came up to the bus, it was upside down. It was facing south. I observed the bus driver, Mike Curtis. He was still behind the wheel. He was inverted. I had Mike by my side. He was with me. Flipper stroke for flipper stroke.
You guys were
the
diving
whole
right
time,
next to each
side
other.
by side. Visibility was very good, about 30 feet.
Wow.
The front of the bus was anywhere between 10 and 15 feet below the surface of the water. After the bubbles cleared and we rolled in, we could see the bus inverted. I could see Mr. Curtin upside down. I headed to the front of the bus. I positioned Mike. I asked Mike to stay outside. Didn't think there would be any need for two of us. Plus, I obviously felt that it was my responsibility as a senior man to take that responsibility, which I did. I positioned Mike outside the window near what would have been the entrance
The door.
door. Handed Mr. Curtis to Mike. Went in a little bit further and recovered another victim and passed him out from Mike. So Mike was outside with two victims. I went back in a little bit further. I didn't realize how far I was going in the bus because I wasn't concentrating on that. I didn't realize until recently. Mike and I really haven't talked about that until recently, when Mike told me that a couple of times that when I went in the bus that he couldn't see me, which to me meant that I went in a little bit further than I thought.
In the documentary, they mentioned that the roof had been like sheared off.
Yes, it had. Yes, it has. The pictures are available on plenty of places that had been. Just about where the seats were, where the hard portion ends and the windows are, was completely sheared.
There was
If
nothing there.
If it was upside down, it would probably be less than 4 feet of crawl space.
Yeah, it was a mangled mess.
Is what I crawled into.
So were you actually
In the aisle.
You were in the aisle, but were you surrounded by bus structure, or was there like nothing below
Well,
you?
we had the floor,
The chassis was overhead.
the chassis and the walls, and the seats going down.
Okay, and then below you was what?
The steel structure of the bridge. It landed on top of the bridge.
The truss. Yeah.
It tumbled on top of the bridge. I went in and grabbed two more victims, disconnected them from the seat.
Seat belts? You under the seat belts?
No, they didn't have any seat belts.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Greyhound. Do Greyhounds have seat
I want to say this to all of the family members and stuff, is that it was very difficult to extract many of those people. However, I did the best I could and treated them with as much respect as I could at the time. I said a soft prayer for each one that I recovered and apologized for the treatment that I was giving them at the time. But I did feel it was necessary to get them out of there as fast as we can, because I understood that everybody needed closure, and so did we. We did everything we could to be as respectful as we could. When I came out with the second set of victims, Mike and I headed up to the surface and handed them to the kids that were waiting on the back of the swim platforms of the boat. First victim was Mike Curtin, and he was a good-sized man. He was over 6 foot tall. I remember his engineer boots and his white shirt. He was resting on the back of the swim platform. Got a picture of him here.
Yeah, can you hold it up?
Picture
A
of
little
Mike.
bit, like the same height as your head right there. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, Mike Curtin right here. This is Mike. This is me. These are some of the victims that we brought up. Kids from Eckerd College. It's about 8 or 9 kids. From
Where
the
was that
college.
photo taken from?
I'm not real sure because I was busy at the time, but I'm pretty sure it was taken from up top
Yeah.
on the
From
second bridge.
deck, whatever was left of the bridge.
Right.
That picture was a portion of I guess a film, because it was featured in the documentary.
Okay.
So it's there. This second documentary was colorized, and I had never seen that before. And I tell you, when I saw it recently, it struck home. It was pretty hard. So we had arrived at the surface. We passed the bodies off, the victims off. They seemed to struggle a little bit, but I think it was because they were overwhelmed. I don't think they had any idea when they got up and were rustled up there in the morning that they were prepared for that. I don't think they had ever seen anything. Very few of us were. I had
Me either.
Mikey, I had combat experience, so I had dealt with that. I had been through some of that stuff. But even then, at that time, and it was only going to get worse, I later realized, that we were just trying to get everybody out and organize and get them out of there as fast as I can. They seemed to have a difficult time, so we had an opportunity to get back into our boat as they were putting people into the recovery boats. Got a call from our supervisor who wanted to come down. So he climbed down the access ladder from 150 feet by himself and came to the northbound main span and dropped the last 2-3 feet, 2 or 3 feet into the boat, into the 16-foot open whaler. And he drove our boat back out to that location. We re-anchored off the back of the Eckerd College boat. So now we had 3 people in the boat, including our supervisor. They looked like they were getting a handle on the victims, and there was more room in the back. A couple of divers had popped up. I think that might have been one of the volunteers, and then I think there's a St. Pete Fire Department volunteer diver who came by. I think he helped also. They had done some diving down at the bottom of the bay.
Right.
But after the supervisor got in there, we tied back off, and we rolled back in for a second trip into the bus. I stationed Mike out up front again, and because I had removed some of the people from near the front of the bus, obviously I had to go in a little bit further the second time. It was basically the same procedure. I was able to only extricate 3 people at this time with what I had. I brought 2 of them out and gave them to Mike. That's when, for me, things got a little more intense.